Let's go. Hello.
Oh, hello. Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me into your group. So I am Sophie. I'm a doula, birth doula, and a birth educator. And I'm a mum of two boys. So I first came to sort of this work after the birth of my first son, who's nearly 8, which is just like blows my mind. But yeah, didn't sort of feel super supported, I guess, throughout the whole transition. And it was a sort of textbook pregnancy, textbook birth, but it was quite a shock to the system, I would say. I'm going to try and make this quite short because I could talk about it for hours, but yeah, it was quite a shock, and I think that sort of ignited my want for more information and sort of why didn't I know this, and why didn't anyone tell me this, and it kind of ignited that path of inquiry, I guess. So I've been a birth doula now for 3 and a bit years. I work as a birth coach as well, so helping people put together their pre-labour and postnatal plans. And yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell. So today we're going to talk about postpartum plan, and I think it's something that I know, Amy, I know you've got little ones already, but has anyone else here already had children? We all first time. Katharina, you have, and obviously Nissa, you have. Okay, so you kind of have a bit of an idea of what it's like when you kind of get, when you have a baby and it's like, oh God. And I think we place so much emphasis on planning for the birth, which is totally valid and important. And I'm not saying to not do that, but we tend to kind of have a drop off after that. It's like, well, we're having a baby and I've got all this stuff and I've planned how and where I want to birth my baby and thought about that, and then it's like kind of just like this, and that's it. That's where I've gotten to. Whereas that in real terms, in real life, once we have the baby, that's like a whole nother journey. It's the next transitionary phase in our life, and if we don't think about that or consider it beforehand, it can be quite startling. And that doesn't mean it's going to be bad, but it's just a lot. It's a lot of change on every single layer. Like, we're multifaceted, we've got physical, emotional, mental, relationship wise, all of these different things going on. And I think it can be so beneficial just to spend a little bit of time considering all of those different things before we're in the midst of it, just to make that sort of transition a little bit smoother. So feel free, if anyone wants to like interject or say anything, like go ahead. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep talking at you and hope that you're that you're good.
Keep going.
Keep going. Okay, cool. So the postpartum period starts the moment you deliver your baby, and really kind of goes on until around 18 months, maybe even up to 2 years. The term postpartum depletion has been studied to actually record postpartum depletion going up to 7 to 10 years from a physical nutritional point of view. So just to the kind of like caveat this whole conversation with, postpartum isn't like you've had the baby and then you're done. It can be quite a long transitionary period. So immediately after birth, the first thing that I think is useful to look at is that golden hour. And this is when you're still within your birthing environment, wherever that might be, however you choose to give birth to your baby. And whether it's gone to plan or whether it's gone to plan B, C, D, or Z, you still have this time after you've given birth. And one of the things that can be quite useful at that time is, or before that you get into this time, is to talk to your partner about what you want that period to look like. So for example, like, do you want mobile phones to be in your birthing space? Do you want your partner to be telling people and announcing it? Or do you want to keep that space kind of like your bubble and you're in this space together? And that's a conversation that is really useful to have before you even go into labour, because often you're not having the same experience. You're in the same space, but your experiences within this are very different. So having the communication open to be able to discuss that is a really useful tool. And then thinking about things like skin to skin. Do you can ask for it, they call it a golden hour, but would you like to have everyone kind of leave you for a little bit and fill out the paperwork and do all that, but do it outside your room, wherever you are. Give you guys time just to bond. think about having baby on you, baby on dad. There was a really awesome study that was done a few years ago in France that showed that the oxytocin levels in the secondary caregiver, so for example dad, actually rises to the same levels of oxytocin that's present in mum and baby on skin to skin contact. So obviously, you know, we want you to have your skin to skin and to have that bonding time, but also give dad a chance to do that, or your partner a chance to do that, because that's incredible for their bonding experience as well. So little things like that to think about for that kind of immediate time after giving birth. And then moving into sort of the fourth trimester. So the fourth trimester is obviously the first 12 weeks of your baby's life. Within that time, so many things happen. Often sort of beneath the surface on a hormonal point of view, our hormones are still flying around, and it can be quite an emotional time. Culturally, we tend to, and I think it's starting to veer away from this, but I think probably like for our parents' generations and stuff, it was very much like you've had the baby and now the family come and they take a picture and it's all quite busy. In different cultures, it's obviously done differently all over the world. And there isn't a right or wrong, but I think it can be nice to explore what it could look like, to kind of step outside maybe what our mums did, or our in-laws did, or even, you know, friends, and that look at on a wider circle, how do you want this to feel for you? So in Japan, for example, it used to be traditional for the mother to spend 100 days inside, which we've all just done anyway. But to spend 100 days inside, and then other members of the family would come around and look after the house, do housekeeping, look after any older siblings, kind of take care of business, so that you can spend time bonding with baby. In Southern America, they still implement this. It's called a quarantina, where you spend 40 days of rest, and that would be, you know, bonding, giving you a chance to bond with the baby. Other family members, partner, come on board to kind of support you in a wider sense, so that you can just focus on that time bonding with baby. In South America, it's quite a big emphasis on nutrition and feeding you really warming foods like broths, and even spicy cacao, things to kind of get your fire ignited. So it's just, I think it's just quite interesting to see how other people are doing things, really, because it can really help you think, oh, I wouldn't have considered that. Or even, you know, 40 days might feel like too long, and 100 days could definitely feel like too long. But do I want to spend a week at home maybe and say no to visitors, or do I want to spend a couple of weeks and just focus on being in bed and bonding and establishing breastfeeding, if that's how you want to feed, and kind of getting to know each other. Yeah, so I think that can be a nice thing to start considering, and to speak to your partner again. Like, if you have a partner with you, communicate with them. This is how I would like it to be. How do you feel about that? Because they will have very different conditioning from their upbringing and a different viewpoint to yours. And I think it's something that can be quite, you kind of only learn that about your partner when you're in it, when you become parents together. You know, you learn about your different conditionings and what your expectations are. So opening out that conversation before you get into that period can be really nice. And it also just helps you both tell each other what you need from each other in this time. So that first 12 weeks, I've written some notes so I don't go off on too many tangents. That first 12 weeks, so yeah, looking at expectations around family members. Do you need to have a conversation with a family member to say, you know, I'd like to have a bit of time, or I really want to see you, but we want 10 days, just the 3 of us or 4 of us, however many there are. And asking them to understand that and support you in different ways. You know, we'd love to see you, but could you just come around and drop off a lasagna, and then we'll give you a shout next week? Like, that's okay. I did that quite a few times. I had many different food parcels dropped off at my front door, and I'd just wave, thanks. Actually, Nissa came and bought me a food parcel as well, which was amazing. But you were welcomed in. You were allowed in the house. So yeah, so expectations from a family point of view, but also between yourself and your partner. And then thinking about healing. So physically, your body has been through a lot, however you give birth. It's a massive transition physically to go through. So one of the big things that I think is really important to think about, and this isn't something to like get stressed over because there are basic fundamentals you can put in place, but nutrition. We know that muscles recover when we sleep and when we are hydrated. Make sure you're drinking enough water. If you sleep as much as you can. I know it's like the big thing, am I ever going to sleep again? But things like yoga nidra can be really helpful. So a 20-minute yoga nidra is equivalent to 2 to 3 hours rest. So if you feel time starved or that kind of thing of sleep when the baby sleeps, yes, sometimes that works for people and that's amazing. But for some people, they just don't want to sleep when the baby sleeps, or you have other children to look after. So a 20-minute yoga nidra can completely reset your energy levels. And then looking at nutrition. So the basics, making sure you're getting enough fluids. Every time baby has a feed, if you're breastfeeding, have a pint of water next to you. It's like such a simple kind of association, but you'll make sure that you're drinking enough. Making sure that you're getting fats, carbohydrates and protein with each meal. Now is not a time to deprive yourself of anything. If you want to have a bar of green and blacks, eat the green and blacks. If you don't want to and you want avocado on toast, eat the avocado on toast. Like, eat what your body is telling you need. If you're breastfeeding especially, your stores are being depleted. Your baby is going to thrive, but you may suffer if you don't sort of top up. So making sure that you're getting a good balance of fats, carbs and protein. And that's super easy to do. You don't need to go to a dietitian. You don't, peanut butter on toast with a fried egg, or avocado on toast with peanut butter, like basics, but they're going to really help. Hydration and then rest. So our muscles repair when we're rested, making sure that we're getting those little snippets in here and there when we can. If you have your partner at home, let them take baby so you can have a nap, or a bath with magnesium salts, like to replenish your muscles and repair. Little elements of care, I think, are the most sustainable and go the longest way in this period, because time is kind of a bit of a wild ride, and you're getting to know a new human, they're getting to know you, and there's new dynamics going on in the household. So little snippets. They don't need to be like a 2-hour nap. It could be a 20-minute yoga nidra, or it could be a 10-minute bath, And then thinking about things like supplements. If you're taking prenatal vits, you can continue taking them through this 12 weeks postpartum. They'll be totally safe for breastfeeding, and they'll make sure that all those basic nutrients and minerals that your beautiful baby is taking from you are getting restored. The idea of baby brain, I don't know if anyone's heard of that term. I think I'm still in it, and my toddler's nearly 2. But that idea of baby brain is literally because our body is doing so much for someone else. Different parts of our brain start to dull when we become mothers, so that we are more focused and sharper to respond to our babies. It's biology, it's how we're made. But that doesn't mean that you can't sort of help yourself to find a bit of clarity. So supplementing can be really useful in this period. And that, together with like a good balanced diet and lots of water, is really helpful. And then identity. I think this can be quite a big thing, and we don't always think about it when we are pregnant. When I had my first child, I was 25, so I was quite young. And I had a massive identity crisis, or what actually, in hindsight, it wasn't an identity crisis. This is just nature's way. But at the time, I felt like I was losing my mind, and that I was sort of like, who am I? I don't know who I am anymore. Especially if we identify, which we all do quite heavily, with our routine, our work, our friendships, perhaps even our movement practice. If you do yoga or you're a runner, like, we identify as that, like, I'm a runner, or I'm a swimmer, I'm a yogi. We kind of attribute ourselves to these little parts of our lives. And when you have a baby for a period of time, these things are in a state of flux. We can't kind of cling to the routines and schedules that made us feel stable when we are caring for a little one. So knowing that this period is a period of transition. There's a term called matrescence, which I wish I had known 7 years ago, but I didn't. And that likens this transitionary period in a way to the transition that we go through in adolescence. So it's a hormonal transition, it's an emotional transition, and it's physical. You haven't just had a baby and sort of like, job done, you know, now I'm a mum. It's kind of, there are stepping stones, and again, there are layers to getting there. And it happens, I thought this time I'd be immune to it because I've had a baby. I was like, I know me, like I'm good. And then I had my second baby, I was like, oh, this is different. So, you know, if you're having your first, your second, your third, Amy, it's layered, and give yourself time and sort of space to arrive in your new place. And that doesn't mean foregoing the identity that you previously had or who you identified with previously. It's making space for more growth. It's not getting rid or moving on, it's just creating more space, and it will come. There's a really great talk on matrescence on TED, like a TEDx talk by Alexandra Sachs, and I can put the link in the chat box later for it, which is wicked, and she kind of articulates it in such a better way than I can. But it just looks at this period as you know, a year or so of transition. You haven't landed at your end point, you're still in a state of flux when you've had your baby. So give yourself the time and space to move through that, and give yourself some compassion as well. She's also got a book, actually, I'll put the link in there as well to that. And then thinking about physical recovery. So physically, it's taken 9 months to grow a human. It should probably take a little bit longer than 9 months to recover. I like to look at recovery as like a bell curve. So you kind of start up here as your pre-pregnancy self, and then as you progress through your pregnancy, you decrease your load, or you decrease your range of movement, or you decrease the intensity of movement that you take. And then when we've had the baby, we don't just kind of bounce back. We have to go slowly and put in the work to get back to that point. And I think looking at it from knitting up from the inside out is a really healthy way to look at that, because you're making sure that you have all of the support in place internally to then, you know, build a stronger outer structure. So looking at the core, the pelvic floor, no matter how you give birth, your pelvic floor has been under stress because it has been holding up a human being, a placenta, and all of your reproductive organs. It's got a massive job to play. So when we start to recover, the first thing that I like to work with people on, and everyone's like, I wanted to go and do some squats or something. I'm like, just breathe, like just get your breathing back. Especially if you've had a cesarean section birth, that can be quite a disconnect from this part of your body to the lower part of your body. So hands on stomach, beneath the belly button, and breathe into your hands. Get your diaphragm responding fully to your breath. Once you have that in place, your diaphragm impacts on your pelvic floor. It's all interconnected. It also impacts on your deep core muscles and your spinal column, your spinal muscles. So this whole kind of circular cylinder group of muscles, that's your core. So if we can get all of these parts talking to each other internally to make sure that you have the support in place to then support you if you want to go swimming, or you want to go back to yoga, or you want to go running, that's the place to start, rather than pounding pavements or, you know, whatever it is that you want to do. And I say this as someone that did do a Paris half marathon 1 year postpartum for my eldest son, and I weed my way all around Paris because I didn't do it the first time around. Who knew? So, and I'm a yoga teacher. I'm qualified to talk about this stuff. I'm not just like, you know, dear diarying, but look from the inside out. So yeah, those are the sort of main pillars, I think. Looking at the golden hour, that 12-week period, look outside of your box. What are other people doing culturally? How can you support yourself? What does your partner feel about it? Managing expectations between yourself and your partner. Moving into sort of physical healing, nutrition, supplementing, rest. Giving yourself time to explore how you feel from an identity point of view, and knowing that it is all valid and it is all okay. Don't belittle your experience, don't belittle your feelings, they're important. And then looking at the physical recovery and starting from the inside out, and again, giving yourself time. Yeah. I think that's me.
That is awesome, mate. That was amazing.
Good.
What do you think?
Not too much.
That was great. Really good. Really good. You covered so many things. You touched on so many things. That was really good to hear. So, and it's because I've got a 10-week-old, you know, I'm in it. So it really resonated completely. I'm not going to add too much because you just nailed it. I'll show you, ladies, a couple of books that I love. So I read these books a while ago as, you know, like a hypnobirthing teacher, but then I've reread them for this pregnancy. And I read them actually, this one I read half in pregnancy, and I've just kind of finished it off the last few weeks. So The Fourth Trimester, you can't see the bottom, by Kimberly Ann Johnson. This is really lovely about healing yourself as a woman. And yeah, exactly, that transition is a massive transition emotionally, spiritually. So it's a lot about that. And this one, The First 40 Days by Heng U, is all about like food, which is very important. And so I'm just going to add those. And anything, yeah, I've actually got full baby brain. So my brain is like this. Got nothing at all. I did write some notes, but I don't think I'm even going to grab them because you touched on so many things. I think the only things, what would I add? You've said it already, but for me, it's all about the sleep, ladies, the sleep and the rest. So how can you get, you know, and this is my tip for that. I no longer think about sleeping at night. I do not think, will I sleep tonight, or, you know, how many hours in a row? I just think, how many naps can I have today? And, you know, maybe I'll get 3 naps overnight of 2 hours or 1 hour or 3 hours. But then I think, can I get another nap in somewhere else? In the morning, in the afternoon, or like, you know, 9 p.m. When can my partner take this little guy so that I can get another nap in? And normally there is a time. So I find that if I can get that 4th nap in somewhere, it transforms the way I feel emotionally, what I feel I can cope with. It reduces anxiety. It makes me a nicer person. So that's one thing. Naps, rather than, if I've given up the thought of sleeping through, it will happen again, but I just don't know when that will be. My daughter slept through when she was 9 months. From midnight till 6. I've actually wrote that down in her red book, so I don't actually remember that. So it might be a while, you know, and I've surrendered to that completely. That's just how it is. That's okay. And anything else, any other things that have been really good this time around? Just making sure that my partner has lots of time with the baby, as much as possible, every day. You know, I hand him over for 20 minutes, half an hour, couple of hours. That's been really good, I think, for all of us, especially for them as well. So he feels really confident with the baby, and I feel relaxed when he's got the baby, rather than being a bit like, oh, he's crying, oh my goodness, he's crying. I know they're fine, totally fine, you know. So I think that's been something that's been good from day one, giving the baby over so that they like really bond. And yeah, I think that's been a good thing for us. I could probably carry on, but I'm gonna stop. Let's hear from you guys. Either anybody, if you've had a baby before, you have a baby now, any top tips that you think, oh, that's been really good for us, or any questions, ladies. We can really talk about anything. So thinking about that, your postpartum, postnatal experience, the first day, the first week, the first few months, is there something that you would like to ask about maybe, or you're not sure about? Fire away and we can have a little bit of a chat about it. Whoever wants to start, you go for it. Go, go, go. No, don't be shy, you guys.
I'll ask something. With the supplements, so I feel like I've like timed the current ones I've got to almost finish when the baby is like roughly due. Would there be like specific brand or like postpartum ones that you could recommend?
Me or you, Sophie? Me or you? What am I doing? So I've got some still left from pregnancy, and I was a bit bad taking them in pregnancy, so I'm just still going with them. Are there postnatal supplements? Do you know what, Ella? I don't know the answer to that. There probably are.
There are some postnatal supplements. So like Pregnacare do a postnatal one and a breastfeeding specific one. I really like Wild Nutrition supplements because they're vegan. Like the capsule itself is vegan and they're plant-based. But there are a lot of postnatal ones. You just need to make sure that you're taking pre or postnatal specific and not general ones, because we know that the levels in pre and postnatal ones are safe for breastfeeding if you're breastfeeding. But there are quite a few. There are loads of great brands now. There's like BioCare. I'm trying to think of others. But
Wild Nutrition too, because it's from plants. I feel like it's more easily absorbed, which for me is a winner. So if you're taking a supplement, you want to know that your body's taking what's in it, otherwise there's no point taking it. And I think they are quite expensive, but it's something that I'm happy to invest in. So I think, you know what, that's what I need. So yeah, same. I take the same.
As a little recommendation, there's an American nutritionist called Lily Nichols. She wrote a book, Real Foods for Pregnancy, and she just had a baby herself, I think within the last year. So she's posting lots of stuff on Instagram also about postpartum and nutrition. So I can highly recommend her.
Just like
I can put her name in the chat box.
Yeah, do
it. Brilliant. I'll follow her as well. That sounds amazing. I've actually got that book, but I haven't. I'm very bad. I haven't read it.
It's amazing. I've been eating her stuff throughout the whole pregnancy.
Nice. Oh, nice. Too many books. Not enough time. Perfect. The other thing, do you know what I'm taking? I'm taking a little bit extra iron as well as my supplement, just because my iron during pregnancy, it was fine, but it was a little bit borderline, and I'm vegan, so I'm taking a bit extra, and I'm taking vitamin D as well, extra, because babies, they suck up your vitamin D, and around 4 weeks your vitamin D goes meow. So if you can get out and get the sun, then that's okay, but mine was okay, but topping them up as well. Yeah, what else do we want to talk about, guys? That's good. So some nice supplements. The only problem is trying to remember to take them. That's where I fail. But no, never mind. What else?
I'm sorry, I took a phone call for a bit there, so I don't know if you spoke about identity at all, but I think it's really fabulous that that's something that you concentrate on. Because I know when I first fell pregnant, I went through a massive identity shift, and it just the concept that my body could even hold a baby basically just seemed crazy to me. And I do very much expect I'll go through that sort of motherhood identity shift soon. Like even just my husband referring to me as mum, like I find really strange at the moment, even like the baby's not here yet, but like talking to the baby and saying, oh, mum said this, or this is what mum's doing. I really look forward to looking at that TED Talk, because it's really nice to hear similar sentiments. Like when I was pregnant, I was reading Michelle Obama's book at the time, and she had like a paragraph in there about her massive identity shift, going from like, this very full-on legal job to being a mother of 2 children, and how that affected her, and just having that resonance is super important, I think.
But I put the link to the talk and to her book in the chat box. But I think with identity, there's so much. So like it can be useful to look at it from what do we hold around the idea of becoming a mother? What's ours? So, and what has kind of been passed on. So when I first became a mum, like I was quite young, and none of my friends had children at all. Like they were not even. My baby shower, my baby shower was organised by a group of my friends, and they were all shit-faced. They were all really drunk and high, and I was like, oh God, you know, this is miserable. And I think looking at, well, what's come from me? What are my expectations of becoming a mother? What does being a mother mean to me? Because it doesn't mean and look the same thing to everyone. What does the idea of mother mean to my partner? Like, what are their expectations of this? And kind of just exploring that, because the matriarch, like the mother line, is so strong. And, you know, our primary caregivers are generally our mothers. So there's a lot of inherited sort of conditioning around that. And just sort of unpicking it and going, oh, okay, well, this is how I feel, but is that even mine? Like, where did that idea come from? Does it resonate with me? Does it stand true now in my lived experience of this? You know, and sort of being able to shed what isn't ours, because a lot of it isn't ours, but then actually really stepping into what is ours. Well, this is the kind of person that I am now. This is how I see myself as a mother, and I can have, you know, I can have a career, I can have a vibrant social life, I can feel good in my body, you know, all of these different things that we kind of question, I think.
Yeah, for me, it's like I work in a really male-dominated industry, and so for my like 9 years of career, I've spent so much time not necessarily like sacrificing femininity, but like redefining what that meant for me. And then you put motherhood on top of that, which is just such a like screaming, I'm female, I'm a woman, and just resolving the two yeah, I know it will take time to redefine what that is, but
yeah. But even that you're aware of, like, I was speaking to a friend about this, about how we and obviously this isn't it's a sweeping statement, and everyone will feel slightly differently, but how women have kind of, we've suppressed our natural feminine and stepped into our masculine, of which we all have feminine and masculine energies, right? We're not, there isn't just polarity within us, but how we kind of suppress the feminine and step into our masculine in order to keep up and not just survive, but prosper in quite a masculine environment or masculine world. And then when we're asked to step away from that and really step into our feminine, it can be like, whoa, like, oh, this feels, you know, it feels vulnerable, it feels soft, I don't feel fierce. And actually, like, that's fine. We don't have to be fierce, we don't have to be aggressive, we can be soft, and we can be so powerful within that.
Exactly. I mean, there's just so much inherent strength in the mother role, as you say, like the maternal instinct and the maternal line, like, super important.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's fascinating, though. Really interesting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I guess I had something sort of vaguely connected that's really interesting about identity, but it was just, I guess, about the baby blues, which you know, we sort of hear about. I've been really lucky. I've had like such a straightforward pregnancy, and mentally during lockdown I've sort of managed to stay really calm, and I'm doing hypnobirthing, and like it's all good so far, but obviously nothing can prepare me for what's about to happen. So I guess and a couple of girls on my antenatal group have already given birth, and they've been talking about they're struggling a little bit, and I don't know, is there anything you can do to prep for, you know, like day 3 when your milk comes in? I'm really aware that that's the thing, but also like beyond that, like, is there anything we can do to prep our like emotions and mental state? I don't know. That's a big question. I don't know.
Do you want to take it? I'm looking at Nissa.
I'll go. It's me. Yes. So first of all, is there anything that we can do to kind of prepare for that? So you're absolutely right, Lauren. So I think having the first baby, it's such a big adventure that it's limited what you can do to prepare, but you can do some stuff. So I think one thing is just acknowledging that it's going to be really emotional, and that is normal. That is how it will be for probably 99% of new mums. It's going to be big emotions, like massive love. Oh, hello, massive love. Like your heart cracks open literally, and it hurts. My goodness, and this feeling of empathy. Like suddenly, I was aware of all the mothers in the world and all of their children, and some of them, you know, in difficult, very challenging circumstances, and that really pained me, you know, and it still does actually, not as acutely as with my first, but just, yeah, let's acknowledge that you suddenly tap into this big emotional plane, and that's an amazing thing. It's a beautiful thing, but it's quite challenging the first few weeks and months, and then maybe just giving yourself permission, you know, to cry if you feel like you need to cry. Maybe that's okay. Or, you know, to ask for help, to feel vulnerable, to feel overwhelmed. But I think that's all completely normal, and that we should give ourselves permission to feel those things for a while. Obviously, if they're going on for a long time and they're, you know, affecting the way that you're managing, then that's when we're looking, you know, into something like more like postnatal depression. But I think that most women probably feel a certain amount of that, and that's, you know, that's kind of normal. What else to say? So it comes back to what I was saying before. It's the sleep. It's the sleep, guys. For me, if I don't sleep enough, I struggle so much emotionally and physically and in all planes. So if I can just be aware every day, have I had enough sleep today to function? And if I haven't, and I can't because, you know, my partner's working, or, you know, he's having a growth spurt and he just needs boob for 5 hours, you know, just acknowledging and maybe even saying out loud, do you know what? I am absolutely knackered today. I haven't slept enough, and that is why I feel like this. And that's okay. What else? What else is useful for emotional? I think that's all I've got. My brain's gone boop.
I think again, like, no, like as Nissa said, like, it is normal to have fluctuations in mood and to be really tearful and to not really know why, even to feel like overwhelming happiness but also overwhelming sadness, and that's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with that at all, and to let yourself go with the flow. But also, again, like, it can come back to nutrients and making sure that you're getting a good balance, because we know that our moods, you know, deplete if we don't have the right resources within us. Like, our brain literally can't function, our mood starts to drop. So making sure that you're taking good supplements, making sure you're drinking well, like omegas, making sure you're taking omegas, fats, are going to help kind of like mitigate the mood fluctuations. But then also saying that, you know, postnatal depression can happen to anyone. There isn't any way of knowing who it will affect. But I think knowing, you know, speaking to your partner as well, if you're worried that might be something that will affect you, especially if you've had a history of depression or anxiety, and you're worried that it could affect you, then just speak to them and say, no, this is something that I'm conscious of. Can you just be aware of it as well, so we're in it together, and it's not something that you're feeling like you kind of have to look out for by yourself, or carry shame around or anything.
And I think, yeah, I don't know, talking to my friends that have had kids now, I think probably most of them, not that they said they would say they had postnatal depression, but they would say that within the first 6 months they emotionally probably struggled at times, I think, in different ways, and potentially with partners as well. You can have a really stable relationship with your partner and, you know, been together for a long time, and it can really rock the foundations. Having a baby can really rock the foundations, and that can be quite frightening, I think, quite alarming, and I think that's quite common as well, and quite normal. So I think when you know, you've had a baby, and then actually you and your partner, you're trying to figure all this stuff out. How do we do this now that, because it does change your rhythm and your dynamics, that takes time. Maybe giving yourself permission as well to struggle a bit. That's okay. Doesn't mean that, you know, it's not going to work out or anything like that. It just means that you need that time and space. I think that's really, really normal as well. That first year, you know, the cliche, the first year, you know, with a baby is the biggest test of a relationship. I think that's probably true. I don't know. What do you think? So
yeah. I'm like, yep. Me and my husband went into therapy when my eldest was like a year and a half maybe, and it was the best thing we ever did. Like, I think everyone should go into therapy, to be honest, but it was an absolute game changer for us, and it gave us the tools to communicate without placing blame or holding the other person responsible for the way we felt as individuals. But I think, you know, that thing, it starts with communication. So being able to hear each other from, you know, whenever you're ready to have that conversation with your partner is really important. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have hard times, because I think everyone will at some point of becoming parents. It's new for all of you, but it gives you the tools and the space to be able to talk about it rather than sort of, you know, isolate from each other.
yeah, rather than be like really cross. Furious. Yeah. No, that's not happening here. It's all good. All good. I was going to do something else. What was the other thing? Oh no, baby brain. It's gone. It's gone. Any other topics, guys, that you'd like to talk about? Anybody like to add anything as well? Please feel free. I'll think about what do I want to. Oh, Indy's saying something. I'm actually, go on. Ooh.
Sophie, can I just ask, you spoke about boundaries with parents and visitors and friends and all of that. At the moment, particularly for my husband and I, because we're both Australian, we're kind of in the opposite end of the spectrum, which I think a lot of people are, regardless of where they're from, really, where it's like there's just no one. Like, you know, you have immediate friendship groups, but the family aren't there and they can't help out. Do you have any recommendations or?
Well, I think if you want support, which can be really useful in those early days, there are postnatal doulas, you know, and a lot of postnatal doulas will work off an hourly or a daily rate. So you don't have to commit to, like, I want you to come, you know, or come and stay with me even, which often we would do with a family member. It can be just like, can you come round for 2 hours, 3 days a week, so I can have a shower and a nap? Yeah. You know, and I think it is like, it's something that we don't always think about investing in, is that extra layer of support, but actually it's a really good investment. Yeah.
No, we've been speaking about that, and exactly that, just having someone potentially come in for 4 hours in a week and just, yeah, give us that respite. And even if we don't really feel like we need it, I'm sure it will help. So
yeah, and I think also, if you feel like you're like, well, actually we're kind of all right, and we both feel fairly rested and everything's quite calm, treat yourself to an afternoon and go and sit in the park together and have time together, because that's something that I think we you don't get often when you have a newborn for a while, especially if you haven't got grandparents and stuff around. So then you just get to spend the afternoon together, and you will probably spend the afternoon looking at photos of your baby, which is what me and my husband do almost every time we go out for dinner. We're like, oh, look at him doing this. But actually it's really nice for you guys to be able to do that together, you know, and sort of focus.
Yeah, cool. Very awesome. Thank you.
And I guess, sorry, just one other question about visitors and stuff. It's just really interesting. It'd be interesting to know what everyone's planning, but just don't really want to talk too much about COVID, but like what you're thinking, and like Nissa, what you've done, and like in terms of allowing people to come over, holding the baby. Like my mum and sisters are just not going to stay away, and they're certainly not going to be able to come around and not hold my baby. So like, I don't know, like what's everyone sort of thinking? Because we were thinking of self-isolating for like 7 days after coming out of hospital, and then allowing just family for a bit. But I mean, there's no right or wrong, you know, but I just didn't know what everyone else was doing.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from ladies. Some of you are due quite soon, so the situation won't have changed much to now. What's your plan?
Well, we are actually, I'm in Vienna, so I'm not in the UK, and the situation is much more relaxed here. But nevertheless, we're actually going into an isolation now, just to make sure that my partner can be at the birth with me, because if there's any COVID stuff going on, he's not allowed in the hospital. And then we've already sent an email out to all family saying that we don't want any visitors for 2 weeks. Yeah, and I mean that's partly COVID related, but also my family is in Berlin, so they're farther away, but his family are here and they're quite annoying, and I know that I would get overwhelmed if I had them around. So I just made a really clear statement of saying, and actually when we sent out the email, his mom's reply was, "Oh, I'm going to come a couple of days after the birth and then after 2 weeks." And we're like, no, you're not coming a couple of days after the birth. You're just staying away until I'm ready. So it wasn't easy to do that, but I feel so much better now that I know that I don't have to deal with them.
Yeah. See, mine's the opposite. I want to see them. I've been in hospital to visit 5 of my nieces and nephews. Like, I was there for one of the births. Like, I want them to come on. But I mean, maybe I won't when it's actually here. I don't know.
How about other ladies? Anyone want to share?
I'm in a similar position to you, Lauren, with my mum and sister. Like, I think they're really finding it hard, the unknowingness of it. And I've kind of blocked out like looking at anything, because I was like, everything's changing so fast. I'm just gonna not pay any attention to the news or what's happening, and then kind of make the call as we get closer. But I saw my mum over the weekend, and she was like, I just don't know how I'm going to be able to help if I can't hold the baby. I was like, well, I haven't said you can't, but I don't know if you can. I just don't know what's going on. But yeah, it's tricky. I also would love to hear from anyone else who's got any experience.
There's no rules, like.
No.
Yeah.
Even with just those two, like my sister, when she came around, because she hasn't touched my belly at all, and she was like, I'll wash my hands and put on a mask, and then she just came and put her hands on my tummy and just cried. I was like, oh god. But it's having that, like, wanting them to be involved and be part of it, but then having the risk and trying to balance the two is just tricky.
Yeah, trust your instincts, ladies. This is, it's the beginning of motherhood. Trust your instincts. So think about what you need for your baby, and then think about your family members. How vulnerable are they? And then how vulnerable are the people that they see, because that, we can only assess for ourselves, can't we? But trust yourself. I think we'll all do our own little thing. None of our families are in London, so for us it was easy. It was a no-brainer anyway. There was no one here, so that's a different thing. But I can imagine how tricky it must be for some of you guys. Oh, anybody else want to add? Anyone doing something different or same? Don't know. Oh, guys, we've got a few minutes. I'm going to wrap it up. So I wrote these a few notes in the middle of the night last night because I was thinking about this, and I think that Sophie said most of it, but I'm just going to fire off a couple of things. Anything else? The other thing I would say is if we can have people in the house, a good investment is a cleaner. A cleaner. I love my cleaner. She didn't come for about 3 months because she couldn't come because of what was happening, but now she's back, and that is money well spent for me, because trying to clean my house with a baby is impossible, and I don't want to do it either. So that for me, that's amazing, just knowing that that's going to be done. Brilliant. What else? Think about making the food easy, so book ahead with your deliveries, your food deliveries. That's just a practical thing. Fill up the freezer. Everyone says it, but actually do it, guys. It's so good to have that food in there. Because why is it with a new baby, you just can't even think about cooking? Like, it's a mad thing. Anything else? First week, soft clothes, physical comfort. Really soft underwear, just be really conscious that your body will be a bit sore and tender, and take really good care of it. And if you're in discomfort, there's no shame in pain relief. Paracetamol is your friend. What else? I think we've covered most of these things. Yeah. And I think I've written, just asking for help. Ask for help if you're struggling. Just ask for help from your partner, from your family if they can, or from, like Sophie said, postnatal doula, cleaner, and get the help. We aren't meant to do this on our own. We are not meant to do this on our own. And it's a job for, extended family and friends and community. And if you try and do it all by yourself, it's so hard. It's really hard. So ask for the help, guys. And I think we're there. That's time. So first of all, thank you, Sophie. That was beautiful. Thank you. Can we all unmute, ladies, and we'll have a little clap. Thank you.
Thank you. It's lovely to see you all.
Who are you on Instagram?
So let me put I'll put it in here.
And do tell us as well, because if people are watching this, so.
Sorry. So I'm on Instagram. I'm _ this is Nave, Nave, and my website is thisisnave.com.
Awesome. And I'm going to share the screen because I wonder if that will, not share the screen, open the chat up. So if anyone's watching this replayed, that's all our links. Hopefully that will come up as well. That was awesome.
Thank you, Sophie. Thank you, Nita.
Pleasure, guys. Have a lovely Monday. And it's really, really nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Great.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.